But it's funny, and this is something that I've always kind of thought about, and maybe this is relevant with the Super Bowl with Brady down in Tampa. But over the past few years, I'd say past 4 or 5, a lot of stars have left Boston. Ortiz, Brady, Betts, Chara. I wouldn't put Kyrie in with that, but he was technically a star.
Yep.
Nowhere near as impactful to the city as the previous names mentioned. But you now have this, what's the next generation of, Boston sports athlete. And, I think there's a few candidates. A lot of people say Jayson Tatum. The Red Sox really don't have one. Maybe it's Bogarts. Bogarts isn't big enough, really. And the team isn't as good. The Celtics, or I mentioned the Celtics, the Patriots really don't have anybody. Unless you want to put like Chase Winovich on that, or it just, there's nobody there. So it really comes down to me, to Tatum and Pastrnak. Those are the two. I think those are the two right now, and of who is the kind of the face of Boston sports, especially the younger generation, because you have Bergeron, you have Edelman, but those are older guys. But I really do wonder who does have the edge there, because in their respective sport, I think Bergeron Pastrnak is better to the NHL than Tatum is in comparison to the NBA. But in Boston, obviously everybody loves Jayson Tatum, and he probably gets a little more play, but Pastrnak is there. And I think that says something. I think that says something. Where do you see it?
I mean, I think, regardless of, obviously hockey's a big, draw in Boston especially, so it helps him out quite a bit. But just the fact that, probably, I would probably put Tatum at number 1 just in terms of nationwide appeal. If he's not maybe the same tier as Pastrnak in terms of Pasternak's, arguably the best goal scorer in the NHL. Like Tatum, if he's not a top 10 player, he very well could be within the next year or so. I mean, he's really damn good. Like, but I think just overall, I'd give the edge to Tatum, but I think it's more of the fact that considering how much the NHL has struggled over the years with marketing players, how much, even when the Bruins had, great teams for years, even looking back at 2011, like you got so many, legendary players during that run, but you also were still in a market where you had Brady and you still had some of the holdovers from, you still had Ortiz, you still had Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Like they were all like kind of in the mix. I think the fact that now you look at kind of this next wave and the two best players, you've got the NBA superstar number 1, which makes total sense, and he's very deserving of it. But the fact that you got an NHL player as probably your number 2 guy who is, not even, I think, just limited to Boston in terms of his appeal. I mean, the NHL, if they were smart, would keep on marketing him. I mean, he's doing all these Dunkin' ads, but he's a guy that's easy to market, right? He scores goals. He's a flashy player. He's got a good personality. Those are the kind of guys that the NHL should be targeting. Like you gotta give Connor McDavid his due because of how good he is, but he's not like he's the most, engaging person. The most conversation people have ever had about Connor McDavid was his like Death Star house that he built.
Yes,
like that was the number 1 draw for him. Like Pastrnak, it's what is he wearing, what he says after a game, just kind of his overall personality coupled with his skill. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely those two guys are the top, Tatum and Pastrnak. I would still give Tatum probably the slight edge just based on the sport and the overall appeal. But yeah, if you told someone, even a few years back that like a Bruin was going to be, I think definitively probably number 2 in the city, I think people would take it. It's just, I think, a testament maybe one to kind of the changing the guard through all 4 sports in Boston, but also I think it's, due to Pasternak's own personality and his skill and just his overall appeal.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Pastrnak is, and this, I feel like this gets overlooked a lot, how big of a generational piece he is. Mm-hmm. Like you really look at it, and from all angles, yes, you have the goal scoring, but just like even you remember back with Sagan, Sagan was good, and Sagan got a lot of points in that 11-12 season. Obviously, he had his issues, but that was the thing. He had his issues. He had a tough time kind of getting up into Boston's top 6. You can put that on Claude if you'd like, but Sagan also was not as consistent as people might have wanted him to be in certain areas. Pastrnak has everything. He does. And that's something like Fluto had that feature on how he was drafted. And it always amazes me that some of the guys who went before Pastrnak went, such as Tony D'Angelo, DJ Tony D. I was, incredible that a guy who had racial slur problems in the OHL got picked ahead of anybody. But whatever. Point is, you look at the goal scoring, you look at the flashiness, you look at the personality, always dancing and interacting with fans when they're there, and engaging and fun to follow and likable. Like that, and you see with McDavid, that is not something you get, every couple of years or every even 10 years. Like that is a once in a 25-year star you picked up. And like maybe the Bruins could have got it in Barzal in 2015. I know they weren't high on Barzal, obviously, because they didn't pick him. But you look at the whole package with Pastrnak, and it is incredible that is someone they're going to be able to build their team around. And the other thing, and he said this at the media day and then in the Stanley Cup, he said it when he signed his first big deal. He ain't playing for the money. He's not. I mean, who knows what his next deal he'll call for? I'd imagine it'll be more than this.
Yes.
But nevertheless, the fact that he's willing to take less to have guys who are really good around him, it's incredible. And, obviously we always appreciate Pastrnak. We always talk about how great he is. But when you really look at the full package and what you said, the fact that a Bruin is definitively number 2, maybe number 1 in this city, it's not a Canadian market. Like hockey's big, but football's bigger. Baseball arguably is bigger because of the history. And basketball with the Celtics, I think, is bigger with a younger audience, maybe a little more active on Twitter. But, Bruins and Celtics are always neck and neck for 3 and 4. That says something. That says a lot. And, I mean, you could make an argument that Pasternak's personality is better than Tatum's. You could make that argument. But again, obviously the nationwide appeal is a little more with Jayson Tatum.